Hi, everybody. This is Candace with Bare Borders Travel. We are back with part two of this interview. So, if you missed the first one, please check out the previous video. Sharonda and I were talking a little bit, or she was talking mostly about a solo trip that she took, and we were giving women a little bit of advice on why you should or why it's okay for you to take a solo trip. But another thing we want to discuss today is why it's important for women to take trips with their girlfriends. And so Sharonda and I have taken quite a few trips together. A few. We've taken quite a few trips together. And we wanted to just share the stories with you guys and talk about our travel experience together. So the first trip I want to talk about, even though this one happened after the other trip, I want to talk about when we went to Italy because Italy was a partial solo trip for you. And it was I'm gonna meet you there for me. I got a little bit of time and I'm gonna meet you there. So I met Sharonda in Milan. Well, how did we end up in Milan? Tell everybody how we ended up in Milan.
Okay, so we're both huge Beyonce fans, both of us, and I don't miss a Beyonce tour at all. And when the formation tour was happening, something just kind of dropped in my spirit. Well, let's just see what tickets are like overseas because
Just touches you.
it did. It hit me. Well, because when tickets are released for a Beyonce show here in the States, you practically got to take off work, not sleep, and just like have your hand on the mouse ready to purchase, and then you still don't miss out on tickets.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, there has to be a better way. So oddly enough, and for any other beehivers out there, tickets overseas are significantly less expensive than they are in America, and you get a whole experience, a whole trip out of it. So somehow I ended up, Googling her tours in Europe, and Italy was one of the places she was playing. And I'm like, okay. And it was Milan. So I'm like, oh, it's the fashion capital of the world. Let's check it out. Remember sending you an email, hey, if I get us tickets, will you come? And you were game. So that was the start of me ending up in Italy. It was to see Beyonce. I had no plan beyond that. And not much would change until I got there.
So at the time, I lived in Spain, and my parents just so happened to be visiting at the same time. So I couldn't stay long. Like I couldn't take this long trip because my parents were visiting us for 2 weeks. So I had 18 hours. That's all I had to get from it was like a 3 hour flight from southern Spain with a layover to Milan and then to meet you. Now, my biggest regret about that trip is that I complained the whole time. I was so grumpy the whole trip. But again, I literally only had 18 hours. And the concert, what time did the concert start? It started like at 7:30 or something.
Yeah, 7:30 or 8.
So it started like at 7:30 or 8, and I was supposed to be in Milan by 3:30, 4 o'clock, and my flight was delayed. I was so pissed. So the concert is starting, and literally my plane didn't take off until 6:45. 6:45 from Barcelona. So, so I complained the whole time. But I got there. How did I get there?
You made it. I ended up, so first of all, I'm staying very far away from the arena because I am directly challenged. So I booked this hotel that I love, but it was nowhere near where the actual arena was in Milan. So I get dressed. I take like a 45-minute cab ride out into Milan to go to the concert. And you and I are doing our best to stay in contact via cell phone, but like they're going to die, the reception is sketchy. So we are old school. And basically, when you were outside of the arena, we would find landmarks and say, okay, look, I'm standing underneath this light pole. There's a guard next to me wearing this type of shirt. I'm going to stand here until you get here. And basically, that's what we did. We used old school directions like we were back on the playground in middle school.
Because kiddos, a long time ago, people did not have cell phones. I couldn't pin my location.
Right.
And we had no signals. We were in another country. Our phones weren't working properly. And so it was like, I'm going to be right here and I'm going to stand here and I'm going to wait for you. And we found each other. We found each other. Those real old school navigation skills. So we found each other, and you saw the more of the concert than I did. I only saw about 25 minutes, the last 25 minutes of the concert. But I don't know what kind of buttering up you did to the security guard where he let me like I had my bag with me, and if anybody doesn't know, I'm also a photographer. And shameless plug, www.candicemroberts.com, just in case you want to see my portfolio or book any travel photography. I also do that. But anyway, I literally had my camera in my bag, and so like I'm in the concert like with this camera like taking pictures of Beyonce. Not supposed to be taking pictures of Beyonce, but there's some of the like my most favorite pictures I've ever taken, because there was one where Beyonce's like all big on the jumbotron, being Beyonce, standing there doing what Beyonce does, and then you see Beyonce like little Beyonce like right in front of the jumbotron, and it was like it humanized her. It made her into a real person, because we see the jumbotron. That's what we see all the time. But you just saw her as a human being. She's just like you. She's just like me. She is like a person just living out her dreams. And I thought that was so interesting. So it's like one of my favorite pictures, and I'm gonna try to slide the picture in here so you guys can see it. But having seen Beyonce many of times. I mean, I saw Beyonce with Destiny Child at Summerfest when I was 18. So I mean, my Beyonce seeing has been like a long time, for real, for real. What was it like seeing Beyonce outside the country?
It was something that I'll never forget. I've seen Beyonce in Chicago and New Orleans, and these are both cities that have a very highly populated African American population, and um, it's one thing to see Beyonce in a city and experience her music and her showmanship with people who look like you in your backyard, and it's super comfortable and you can get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing her in a stadium where people don't speak the language, it is filled to capacity. Um, Tens of thousands of people. There's nowhere to move. Um, the audience is different. They don't look like you. And to be able to experience somebody who you follow their entire career, you feel like there's parallels between their music, their growth, and your own life. And to see them on this stage where there are all of these people singing their lyrics. For me, what did it was to hear everyone in their Italian accents, real heavy, talk about how they have hot sauce in their bag, swag, as well as Beyonce. Blew my mind. Like, okay, this is crazy. But to take it a step further, once that moment happened and I looked around and saw that all of these people were excited, and then down on that stage is Beyonce, who is this, black woman, this mother who is living out her dreams. Her band is black people. Her dancers are black women, and they are in Italy, and they are literally on stage doing what they feel God has called them to do, and this stadium is standing up and applauding, and it's crazy. And that for me was life changing. That for me was a moment where it was very clear that when you walk in your calling, there's not a room that you cannot walk into and not be received well if you're giving it your all. So it was amazing to see that. It really, really was.
Yeah, it was. So thank you for making me do it, because even though I only had 18 hours, I'm very glad that I got to see that smidget of the Formation tour in Milan. But we left. So we left the arena, and the night was kind of crazy, because then it was us trying to figure out either how to get on the Italian metro, and that didn't work out, or because the hotel was so far away and it was so late at night. Well, let's just find another hotel and stay right here in the city, and that didn't work out at all. And like we went, so remember when we went into one hotel and we're like trying to ask, hey, are there rooms available? And the guy is like, no. And then we're like, oh, great. So we kind of sit down just to regroup. What are we going to do? And he is like, oh, like his attitude. Like that is the one thing about Italy, my experience from that 18 hours. I kept running into grumpy old men. And I don't know if you had that experience, but it was driving me crazy. Like even on the train, like me leaving the airport, taking the train into the city, there was no one on the train. I put my foot on the seat in front of me, and an old man came outside of the train. He's knocking on the window, and he's like, "Hey, like get your foot down." And I'm like, what is wrong with you? And like that was like my initiation into the grumpy old man in Italy. And it was like the whole trip. It was grumpy old men. And I was not appreciating it.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I think that Milan is kind of the New York of Italy. They were a little more abrasive in Milan than any of the other places I went. So even the hotel that I had initially was in a small town called Passerile, and everyone was so kind, even the old men. And then when I left Milan and traveled on, everyone was incredibly kind. I just kind of think Milan is more, it's the New York of Italy,
Yeah.
and people move fast, and they are just not warm and fuzzy at all.
Wow. I was grumpy. They was grumpy. We was just all grumpy. I don't know what was going on with the trip. But I know that we just talked about solo trips before, but just quick, just for a few minutes. So I had to leave. I ended up going back to Spain, and you continued on. You continued your journey in Italy. So what did you do?
So I did stay in Milan another day, and it was just okay. As much as I love clothes, I'm not a big shopper, so that didn't do it for me. I do love cathedrals, and so I did go to Duomo di Milano, which is one of the most famous cathedrals there, and I like to spend time at the major churches wherever I go. I did the same thing in Guatemala. Actually, the tapestry that's behind me, I bought outside of one of the major churches in
Mhm.
Chichicastenango. So that was my big thing in Milan, and I quickly needed to move on because it just was not my thing. So what I decided to do, and I do need to note that on the solo trip, I bought a one-way ticket. I wasn't sure how long I would be in Italy. I know that's kind of the face that my mother made, and she said a lot of words. She did not appreciate the fact that that was my approach. But my kids were gone for the summer, and I had time.
Okay.
So my intentions were to go from Milan and to kind of do like a tour of Italy. I was going to do Verona, Rome, and then head back. I never made it to Rome because I ended up taking a train to Verona, and it was
Mhm.
the most amazing experience ever. I got there, it was supposed to be a day trip, and I ended up spending the rest of my time there, which was another 3 days. It's a small, old cobblestone town, and it is like something out of Romeo and Juliet, really and truly. And that's why I went. It was supposed to be go visit the cool town from this notable work, and I just fell in love. The people were warm. The city itself is beautiful. The highlight of my time in Verona, there were actually two. I stayed at Airbnb. I rented a room in a little apartment, and the owner of that apartment told me. She asked why I was in Italy, and I told her about the Beyonce concert, and she told me that, she had just been thinking that how much I reminded her of Beyonce. So if I ever
Yeah,
go to
well,
Verona again, right,
well,
she's won me over. Exactly.
yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
She was really sweet, and she was really able to help me understand, what there was to do because it's a small town. But the highlight was I wanted to see an opera, and that was a no go. But there was a play, and Verona has a mountainside outdoor theater, and they
Mhm.
do shows at night, so it's completely dark. There's candlelight lighting, and then of course the stage is lit appropriately. But I was able to see Romeo and Juliet in Italian in the city of Verona. So how
Oh,
cool is that?
that was.
It was amazing. And just to show you the contrast, the difference between the folks in Verona and Milan, while I was there, I was, of course, by myself, and there was a family that was there. There was grandparents and parents and grandchildren, and the Nona, the grandmother from that family, actually invited me down to become part of their family to watch it together. And it just was amazing. It was amazing, too. It was another example of how art, whether it's music or whether it's the theater, bridges people together. Because
Mhm.
I taught myself Italian. It's real broken. I bought one of those.
Actually, I was quite proud of you because I was like, because Italian, when I was there, I have the French and then I had the Spanish and then the Italian was coming this way and it just fried my mind. I couldn't even do it. I couldn't even try. I became that I'm just gonna speak English. And I couldn't even speak. I couldn't speak either language. I couldn't even try. So I was like very proud of you. Like I said, I don't know how you because I just couldn't, like, the Spanish and the French, it was just coming together, and I was like, no, just forget it. I quit. Like, I just couldn't do
Hey,
it.
I know, yeah, it is difficult. I spent maybe 3 months before going actually practicing and playing these CDs in the car on the way to work, and I have the basics down. But being able to go to Verona and to walk the cobblestone streets, and there's of course a castle that is where Juliet lived, and you can tour it, and you can stand over the balcony and look down into the garden where Romeo would come every night. It just was really, it was almost like I was a big girl who was, grown enough to travel alone, but who became 14 years old again, living like this romantic fantasy. And that was cool. It was really, really fun.
Yeah. So one thing I was jealous about, like, I should have stayed. I should have stayed. No, it's okay. I had to get back to my parents who were having a great time with the kids in Spain, but I had to get back. But we before that, some years before that, we took another trip. So where did we go?
We went to Paris for our 35th birthday, even though we're only 27. We celebrated 35 years in Paris together. And it was my first trip to Paris. You'd already been. And then I actually went back home with you, and home at that time was Spain. So
Yep.
that was
Yep.
awesome. It was awesome.
All right. So we got to Paris. We stayed in this small hotel. It was right, literally around the corner from the Gare du Nord. It was like by the main train station in town, the big train station where everybody meets. Where these are the trains that go to London, but also the RER that goes out to the airport. So just right next, it was very busy, a very very busy area. So nice, cute hotel. So what did we do? What are some things that we did when we were there? We did a lot of walking. We did a lot of walking.
We did a lot of walking. And you made fun of me, and actually I learned it. An important lesson that I've taken with me: bring comfortable shoes and try not to bring the biggest bag you own full of clothes. This is why I was able to make Guatemala work.
So we went to Paris, and Sharonda was coming back to us. She explained she was coming back to me with me to Spain. So it was quite a lengthy trip, but but like she literally packed everything in the kitchen sink. And we're trying to get on the metro with like my little bitty roll on carry on and then like her huge massive bag. Like we literally had to switch bags because the bag was the same size as her. And to switch bags because she could not carry it. And so if it's like travel 101, guys, do not overpack. You do not need all that extra stuff. You just don't. You don't. And that's amazing too. Don't you discover that it's like stuff you think you need? Like when you start traveling, you don't need all that. You don't even think about it. You just like, nobody know me, whatever. You really don't think about it. You don't think so. Don't overpack. Don't do like Sharonda did and overpack and then make me carry the suitcase. And then so then we'll talk about that later before we leave. But you remember the guy in the airport, and remember we had our coffee. I forgot about this.
How do I not remember this? I feel like it's probably something I did.
You did do something. So remember when we were trying to get the bags and we were lined up in the airport to leave to go to Spain. And then remember we had coffees and then the guy was trying to tell us something. You was like, hold on.
Yes.
And he was like in his suit, whatever the airline was, he had his suit on, and his face was like, and I was like, Sharonda, pourquoi tu as fait ça? C'est très méchant, c'est très méchant. Like, je suis désolée, monsieur. Just like, I'm so sorry. And you was like, girl, he be all right.
I'm like, trying to figure out
I'm trying to do something. I'm not thinking about him. And he was so upset. Oh, that was so funny. It was so funny. But anyway.
Oh my gosh, yes. That's how I learned my lesson where you do not need all of these bags. You need free hands when you're traveling.
Throw your coffee on the guy at the airport who's trying to figure out where you're going.
Oh my God.
So anyway, let's go back a couple of days. So one place we went to, which was like amazing, which is everybody goes or tries to go when they go to Paris, but it's like a must see, and yeah, it's cliche, but you need to go. So where do we go?
We went to the Louvre,
Mhm.
and it was amazing. Again, this was my first time you've been before. First of all, if you've never been, just understand that there is no way possible that you can get through the Louvre in one day. This is definitely a multiple day, multiple visit trip because it is massive. But we went and we covered quite a bit of ground, and it was amazing because that trip for me was it was good at really reminding us how we connected and how we became bonded in the first place.
Mhm.
So Candy and I met in middle school, sixth grade, and our common thread was that we are francophiles. We love anything French.
Mhm.
We came through the French immersion program her entire elementary year. I started in, or elementary years, and I started in fifth grade, and we met in middle school in French class.
Mhm.
So that was kind of our common thread, and I think we both had dreams of growing up and being able to see France and being able to actually experience a lot of the things that we have been taught in the classroom. And so that was always a common thread for us. So in that moment to be celebrating 35 years from us,
27 years. 27
20,
years.
27 years, and X amount of years of friendship, whatever that is, minus 27. Standing in the Louvre was amazing. You and I also grew up in the same neighborhood in Milwaukee, so we are products of 53206. And for those of you who don't know what that means, 53206 is the zip code that boasts, if you will, the highest number of incarcerated Black men in the entire United States. It is poverty stricken. There's a ton of disenfranchisement, and there are yet a lot of people who have done great things coming out of there. So being able to come out of that neighborhood and now be standing in a palace in France where you are surrounded by crown jewels and paintings that you only saw in your art history book, and being able to stand within feet of the Mona Lisa and to look out into the gardens and to be able to physically stand in the midst of things that were only pictures and books that you were even blessed enough to get a hold of. Because that was the thing about our friendship was that we were sent to a school because we were gifted. We had something that teachers saw in us that other children didn't have. So we were essentially plucked out of our neighborhood schools and we were sent to this other school where we were exposed to all these things. And to be able to take that a step further and be able to actually realize those things. At one point, I think we both were like in the Louvre crying because that's what we do. Because it was just so overwhelming. It was so much to take in.
It was, and I had been there. I had been there. That was like my fourth time there, actually. And it still was like, I can't believe I'm every time. It's like, I can't believe that I'm here because it is. It's like you're that little girl who is like, oh my God, like this is something that I've thought of my entire life that I've always wanted to do. Now, one thing though about the Louvre that always intrigues me is that yes, it's a museum and you're looking at this massive collection and you're looking at the crown jewels, but this used to be somebody's house.
Right.
Like somebody lived there. And that always gets me about that place because it's like, how the heck did you? Because I've been there 6 times and I've still never seen the whole thing. Because how the heck can you? So it's like if you need somebody all the way over here, you're not getting to that person until later in the day because it's so massive. It's so big. So that's always I always find that funny about it. Like this is somebody's house. Somebody actually lived here,
Right. Right.
and it's huge. Okay, so we left the loop, and we enjoyed. I mean, we did the typical stuff like we ate crepes and looked at the Eiffel Tower, and this everyday stuff.
It was all,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, we did all of that. But you made me get dressed up and do something that I didn't want to do. But I did it anyway. So what do we do?
We went and we saw a show at the Moulin Rouge.
And that Moulin Rouge. And it was great. I cannot recommend it enough. It was actually a really, really good time. So we did. We got all dressed up and we put on little dresses and I had big hair. My hair's natural. It's flat iron today, but and it was way longer then. But I had big hair and we had our dresses and it was we really had a good time and we had great seats. We were sitting like right in the front, right on the stage, and that's like the women and the feathers and the it was amazing. It was an
It was.
amazing
It was.
experience.
And let me just note, in this big bag that we talked about, I had several wigs, one of which was for the night of the show, and fishnets and several shoes. So sometimes you do need a little extra space, but I digress. But we did. We got dressed. We had great seats, and I think it was more than we anticipated. The shows are really, really late at night, and um, we were right up there. Like, we were being hit in the face with
With
feathers.
feathers.
But something really funny happened while we were there. So we were at there's small cabaret tables set up. It's not like theater seating. And in front of us, there was, of course, other patrons. What happened at the Moulin Rouge?
Some lady decided not to read the history, not to read the website when she bought the tickets, and decided to bring her daughters with her, and not adult daughters, not teenage daughters, her young daughters with her to the Moulin Rouge. And I have no idea how this information went over her head that this was very much a cabaret show. This is very much an adult outing. It was 11:30 at night. Kids should not be in a cabaret show. But it seemed as if, she was like, I've always wanted to go here and I want to bring my daughters here and this is something I always wanted to do. But 20 minutes into 20 minutes into the show, she didn't make it. Those kids, it was like one high kick and one right boob too much, and that was it. That was
That
it
was
for
it.
her.
Yeah, it's done.
She snatched those kids and they were gone. And I think it was the whole snake, the woman diving. Remember that? So the
Yeah,
Moulin Rouge,
and
guys, you can't take pictures. So there's no real pictures unless it's like the official released pictures from the Moulin Rouge. Official photographer takes them. But there's a segment in the show where there's an actual pool underneath the stage, and then the top of the stage retracts, and then there's like snakes, and then there's a woman and she dives in there and she's swimming with these snakes, and that was too much. That was way too much, and it was bedtime after that apparently because they left.
Yeah, curtains had definitely drawn for them. Thing to know about the Moulin Rouge, for those of you who are not familiar, it is in a district in Paris called Pigalle, and it's what we would consider like a red light district. So this is a very adult entertainment, very sexually charged part of town. It is
Mhm.
not where you want to take your fourth and fifth grade daughter.
That is so true. So unless they actually took a cab and was dropped off in front of the door, the walk to the Moulin Rouge would have been eye-opening just for kids because like she said, Pigalle, there are sex shops, there's all kind there's even a sex museum with like the history of sex, and it's on the same side of the street as the as the Moulin Rouge.
Right.
And so I mean it's a lot to take in and a lot to see. So if you weren't aware that that could very much so be overwhelming for children and a mother who apparently did not know. So don't take your kids. That's what we're telling you is don't take your kids. The Moulin Rouge is definitely a girlfriend, a date night with your spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever. Do not take your children to the Moulin Rouge.
Wow. But be prepared to be entertained. It's a great time.
It was. It was definitely a great time. So we had to leave Paris, of course, and we spilled coffee on the guy, but we were able to leave, and we ended up coming to Spain. So at the time, I lived in Spain, and I lived in a small village, literally, in the mountains in Murcia, and it was called Caravaca de la Cruz. And Caravaca is it's one of the holy cities, which I never knew that there was like a plethora of holy cities for the Roman Catholic Church. So there's like five there, and it's like the Vatican and Rome and Caravaca in Jerusalem, like in the city in the middle of Spain. But I really enjoyed my time there, and I was so happy that you were able to come and visit us. So what did we do? What did we do? Nothing really.
Um, we just kind of hung out. It was definitely, it was still vacation for me because obviously I'm out of Milwaukee, but it was a really cool staycation. And Caravaca is beautiful. Because I do have an affinity for churches, I'm also going to cemeteries. The history of that little town was fantastic, and being able to another cobblestone town, very very warm people. But what I enjoyed most about visiting Caravaca was just being able to literally to spend time with you and visit
Mm-hmm.
with you. Ever since I can remember, you've been very adamant on living out this dream of living abroad, and you've made it happen. And God has placed you with someone who supports that dream, and you all have been able to travel abroad with your children. And so, one of the challenges that girlfriends have, especially when you've been girlfriends since you were children, is that as you grow and evolve, your relationship has to as well. And so we have a very firm foundation of knowing each other literally as 10, 11-year-old girls. And
Mm-hmm.
we've remained friends all this time through weddings and having children and divorces. But we don't get to see each other often. We've not lived in the same space since we were
Mm-hmm.
seniors in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so really being able to spend that time and be with my best friend, but watch her, witness her, be wife, be mommy, hang out, with her kids, but doing it while living out her dreams. Being able to be mommy and to be a wife and to, have your family in Spain or in Morocco was major. It was, to me, it was no different than it would have been going to your college graduation, or it was
Mm-hmm.
kind of a moment, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And that was wonderful. Like, I think the highlight of our trip was going to the grocery store where you got to
Right.
show that, you can take a few euros and come back with a whole fresh chicken that somebody just peeled out back, and like, produce that somebody probably picked that morning. Being able to go into the shops and just do a little bit of shopping, and even I think we had like a manicurist that came into the house.
Mm-hmm.
Who's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I'll do a manicure, and being able to just do that was fun. It
Yeah.
wasn't it wasn't contrived. There wasn't a whole lot of planning we needed to do. We were just allowed to be, and I appreciated that. To be together as adults and to be able to witness that was important.
Yeah. And I'm glad the kids got to see um, us because, especially with the girls, because we move so much, I feel like that they don't get to develop the kind of bonds that I have with people because I lived in one place, my whole childhood. And so I'm glad that they were able to witness what friendships look like because I don't see you, I don't even see my parents, I don't see anybody, it's really just us. And I'm glad we're able to do it, but that is the hard part about it, that you don't get to see your family and you don't get to see your friends, and you do miss out on milestones. You miss the weddings and the births and sometimes the funerals, and it is what it is. But I don't regret it, because it's like you said, this is something I've always wanted to do, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else or being anywhere else. I couldn't.
And it was cool for your kids to see their mom as somebody other than mom. The
Right.
faces, that they had when we were dancing around and singing the Tina Marie and Madonna and all of the stuff that I think we played Alanis Morris. I'm positive we did. I can't
Hmm.
imagine that we wouldn't have. And they just were like, "Who are these people? Like, and
Exactly.
where's my mom?" That was fun.
Okay, so just to kind of wrap this up, because we could go on and on forever, um, how, why do you feel it's important that women travel together and take these opportunities, even if it's just a little bit of time? Like we only had 18 hours in Italy, but we still did it. So, but why is it important?
I think it's important because, particularly women, and I'll take it a step further because I've been a woman, but I've been a black woman my whole life. And one of the things, regardless of your circumstances, whether socioeconomics, whatever the case may be, there is a large chance that if you were born black and female in this country, that you will grow up with a superwoman complex. And what that means is that you live out your adult life believing that you have to be everything to everybody. And so you have to be everything to your children. You have to, be the boss chick at work. And sometimes you need to be able to step back and just connect with people who understand you on a human level, who knew you before you had kids, who knew you before you, were a director in your job. And girlfriends need the opportunity to do that, just kind of for the reason that we explained, that as you grow and your roles change, your relationships have to grow and evolve in the same way. And so you have to give yourself the opportunity to make those connections with your girlfriends. And sometimes just reconnecting with your girlfriends is good for recharging and remembering who you are, outside of what your title is, remembering what you enjoy, what you love, and just having somebody there that just understands that without having to explain it. And that's what's been really big for me. Anytime that you and I can get together, it's a chance just to remember who we are. And we've had a lot of, even back in September when we celebrated your dad being inducted into the Wisconsin Coaches Hall of Fame, it was real brief.
Oh, it was very brief, but we had a great time.
We did. It's the ball.
We had a great time.
But you need those moments to connect with those people who knew you when and still love you today, if that makes sense.
It does. And it's like those kind of friendships, you always pick up where you left off. There's never I have to catch up. It's like it's never left. And you have to appreciate that. Like everybody needs that type of relationship with somebody in their life that knows them. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for inviting me on your journeys, and thank you for coming and sharing my journeys with me. So last question I want to ask is, where are we going to go next when the world opens up and Miss Rona decides to depart and leave our presence?
Where are we going to go together? Okay, well, I definitely want to get to Morocco to visit you, but I guess getting you out of Morocco, I would personally love to go to Dubai, and I also would love to go to Bali. So, what are your thoughts on either of those places?
I'm gonna go to Iceland because Iceland is like a good in the middle. It's like I can get to Iceland really quickly, and then from Wisconsin, it's easy to get to Iceland because I want to see the Aurora Borealis and I want to stay in one of the igloos. Those igloo hotels that you can lay in bed and look at the sky and children aren't invited. Like children aren't allowed in the hotels, and so that's why I want to go. So I don't have to. That's like my excuse not to bring the kids.
That's actually a really good idea. I have a girlfriend that went to Reykjavik, and her pictures are amazing, and all she has ever had to say is amazing things about it. So I would be down.
Yep. All right. So
I
Iceland. I can do Dubai too.
Let's do Iceland. How many people can say they've been to Iceland? So
a lot of people. A lot of people can say it.
I think that is true, but I don't know anybody other than my one friend. We can be friends.
Yeah, I have a sorority sister her pictures were great too. But in saying is just to kind of sum this up. I know that we just sat here and talked about, oh, we went to Milan, and oh, we went to Paris, and oh, when I lived in Spain. Trust me, I am like good at like the Google flights and looking for deals and looking for things. Travel does not have to be expensive. And like one of my biggest travel tips that I've learned since starting to live this life is that travel in America costs more. And so if you can find a way to at least, that one plane ticket getting out of America, that may be the biggest thing. But if you can actually book directly with a hotel or book through foreign travel sites, like for example, Expedia.com has an Expedia FR and an Expedia ES, which will have a completely different price for the same hotel and the same dates. All right. So look at other countries' resources for travel, and the flights will be cheaper. The hotels will be cheaper. So there are ways.
That's a good point. Yeah, travel does not have to be expensive. And I think when I talk to a lot of people that are our peers, their biggest thing, and I heard that a lot. I went live on my trips, and people would say, oh, I can't wait to get like you. First of all, you don't have to wait. I am certainly working class. I am not sitting on a pile of money. But travel is important to me, and it can be done. I did Guatemala for just a little over $1,500 all in. It is not something that you have to prepare yourself for in order to do it. You just have to commit to doing it. And one of
Mm-hmm.
the things that I tell the younger women that are in my life is that plane ticket that you spend to go to Vegas or Miami every year, and I'm not knocking Vegas or Miami, but I've spent less to get out of this country and go see the world.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about perspective and just doing we'll do diligence to do some research.
Yep, that is true. Well, thank you so much. I know I've taken up a lot of your time with this, so but thank you. Thank you for doing this interview. I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys appreciate just us chit-chatting, and maybe we can do it again about something else. I don't know. But thank you. Remember to subscribe, and you guys have the best day ever. Bye.
Bye.